Hello, guys, girls, and anyone in between or outside of that. I have recorded this right after the first chapter, and it took me extremely long to get the file into my editing program because it wouldn't show up in the saved audios. So I didn't edit anything about this chapter or my voice or any mistakes. I normally at least edit the big mistakes, but this time it's a wild ride, I'd say. So, yeah, prepare, I guess. Um, like I said, I recorded this right after the first chapter, so it's also the recording style from the one that is a bit worse quality than the newer one I'm speaking with now. So yeah, enjoy or scream at me in the comments. Chapter 2, 1.2, The Endeavour Files. A week passes like normal. Hawks goes to work, saves lives, smiles through civilians, grabbing and pulling his feathers, goes through the motions whenever the media corner him, and pretends he doesn't get hurt during flights, that the loss of each feather didn't cause him pain. He reports to the commission after each patrol and returns to his empty penthouse at the end of each day. Keigo is tired and lonely. His sidekicks all went out to dinner while he stayed behind to work through the mountain of paperwork that waited on his desk. When had it gotten so cold? The cold had once been a little seed, easy to ignore, only becoming a nuisance once in a while, but it grew, expanded, and now he was full of it. It pushed all the color out around him, killed off his appetite. That at least made his handlers happy. The drop in calories meant no more forced purges after failing to follow his meal plan. Really, he should be grateful. It was curated specifically for him. He shook his head forcefully, trying to remind himself that that was wrong. It's so hard to remind himself that everything they've told him for 20 years might be wrong. He has no frame of reference, no friends or family. All his colleagues are kept at a distance by the commission. The closest thing he had was his interns. The thought of him makes his heart ache. He misses his fetchlings, Tokoyami and Dark Shadow. His handler had suggested enrolling Tokoyami in a special OPS program to help him reach his full potential. Icy fear had shot through Keigo. No, he couldn't let them have his fetchling. Tokoyami is so kind and happy and hard-working. He couldn't let them ruin him the way they ruined him. So he lied. He told his handlers that Tokoyami's quirk wasn't suited for special OPS, that it wasn't strong enough. The drawbacks too great, and the weakness insurmountable. What the fuck is that? And the weakness insurmountable. He told them Tokoyami would be lucky to break into the top 50. His handler had sneered at him after that and demanded to know why he was still wasting time on a lost cause. He was too much of a distraction, his superiors decided. Keigo was too dumb to mentor someone in the next generation, and no matter how good it looked to the public, they decided he just couldn't be trusted with a hero in training if he couldn't coax potential out of the UA student. The punishment for wasting time and resources on a lost cause was sensitivity training. They pushed Keigo to his breaking point, training him how to overcome the different torture techniques. Jesus Christ. They pushed Keigo to his breaking point, training him how to overcome the different torture techniques villains were most likely to use against him. They burned his feathers, cut the delicate skin on his wings and around the joints. They placed high-pitched noises that left Keigo unable to focus. It was all worth it, though, if it kept them away from his fledgling. Keigo's wings had never felt as heavy as they did when he had to inform that baby bird that he couldn't see him anymore. Tokoyami was crushed, and it broke Keigo's heart. He rushed to assure him that he was wanted, talented and smart, that he was a good bird and would make an amazing hero. Keigo reassured him that it was Hawk's fault he couldn't keep him on, that his performance was no longer satisfactory and he had to make up for it. He didn't want to neglect his prodigy with his lack of attention. It wasn't Fumikage and that Dark Shadow's fault. He was such a bad mentor. Hawk stands in his barren apartment. His handler had gleefully described as minimalist. They had decided on the decoration and furniture before they gave it to him. He was meant to be grateful that they gave him somewhere so nice to live. He knew he should be, but every time he looked around, his stomach twisted into knots. Today he just stares at his wings. They ache terribly. He had a beauty day, as his handlers likes to call them, on his schedule. His sidekicks were always so envious when the notification popped up in Hawk's schedule. Hawk dreaded them. They caught the talons on his fingers and toes to the quick, leaving each digand oozing blood and throbbing. The feathers in his hair were plucked, and then they plucked each feather that they deemed unsavory. Every feather out of place yanked out with efficiency, even new pin feathers that leaked blood into his plumage. This is not acceptable, Hawks. You should be taking better care of your wings. The public should not see something as unsightly as your inability to keep yourself at least some modium and presentable. They should never see these horrifying claws either. It would only frighten them. The lecturer had been stern, as it always was. They said the same thing at every bi-weekly grooming. That's to remind you to keep yourself presentable to the public, his handler said sweetly as her grey eyes glowed yellow with the activation of a quirk. His handler had a fear quirk that was pointed enough to cause physical harm by implanting an idea into their mind. Today she showed him big gloved hands gripping his wings, joints and squeezing until snap. The strong bones broke. The imaged pain felt so real. The fear gripped his mind so tightly that he could only scream. Slumped on his knees, his forehead to the floor. When it ended, the pain in his wings seemed to linger and throb, aided by the ache from the rough grooming. A painted warble escaped Keigo's throat and his eyes closed. When he looked around, he could find nothing to comfort himself with. His hands locked into an instinctive stress grip around opposite wrists. Tears bubbled into the corners of his eyes, but couldn't fall. A cruel truth of his Asian mutation. His wings wrapped around him in a pseudo hug. Stumbling to his room and to the closet, the only thing on his mind was making himself smaller. Safety, small, dark, enclosed. I can protect myself here. No one can get past me or sneak up on me. After the commission purchased him, he was no longer allowed to indulge his mutant traits. Good boys don't need a nest. Good boys don't make strange noises. Good boys don't eat raw meat. Hawk's grip tightened as he sat in the darkness, in the little pile of towels hidden on the floor here. They were the only extra softness his apartment was stocked with. There's a buzzing in his pocket, but his hands won't release. Joints still locked in place. Desperately, he tries to calm down. When his grip only tightens, his eyes gloss further. And branching his knees, he pushes against his forearms until his left pinky dislocates and he gets his hands free. His phone has stopped buzzing, and fresh panic surges. He fumbles the phone, not noticing it's the burner from Darby. He hits the radial as fast as he can and starts babbling as soon as the line clicks. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to miss your call. I swear I'm being attentive. A stressed warble, high and reedy, slips past his lips and feels his face whiten. I'm sorry, he gasped before locking his jaw shut, wings curling around himself into sharpened shields. Relax, birdie, Darby raps. Meet me in the Warhouse district by the docks in Mutsutafu in an hour. On autopilot, Hawks is up and moving. Yes, sir, he mumbles, ears ringing too much to hear himself speaking. He hasn't made a sound like that in front of anyone in years. His throat burns with the memory of his old training modifier. It was to help train him out of the chirps, wobbles, and thrills that he wanted to make. Kago doesn't bother closing the balcony door behind him. At top speeds, he might be able to make it to Mutsutafu in an hour. His wings ache and burn with the exhaustion, blood pooling beneath feathers, straining them a darker red than the ones around them. When the dogs come into view, he sends off a horde of feathers to search for Darby, letting them zip around until he feels the vibrations. Until he feels the vibrations of Darby's heartbeat. He bangs hand. Oh my god, too stupid to read. He banks hard into a steep dive and a graceful landing. What do you need, hot stuff? The flight helped Kago pull it together, his mask back in place where it belonged. Darby studies him closely, taking in the wetness around his eyes, the lingering gloss behind his visor, and the blood straining the tips of each gloved feather. Can't fucking read. Darby studies him closely, taking in the redness around his eyes, the lingering gloss behind his visor, and the blood staining the tips of each gloved finger. Curious, just the fingertips? It must be his blood. You got a commission phone? Kago nods with his easy, charming smile. Darby holds out a hand. Trust. You need that trust if you're going to get out. There's no hesitation when he hands it over. Darby raises a brow and is quick to pop it open and pull the battery and SIM card and drop the deconstructed phone into a pile on the ground. You want into the leak, birdie? You're gonna get us some information. I want every file they have on Endeavor. Jesus. Such a smart little guy. Kago pulls a flash drive from his pocket. Darby pauses, surprised. Huck smiles a little too wide, sharp, canines flashing. I've been complying these all weeks whenever I get a chance. I figured based on what the commission knows about the league, he'd be top on your list. Kago's voice gets softer the longer he speaks until he trails off. His eyes drop from Darby to the villain's chest. What was I thinking? Acting without orders. Stupid hawk, dumb bird. Kago's shoulders hike up around his ears, his fingers aching as they lock into tight, anxious fists. Good bird. Keigo's eyes snap up, wide with wonder. Dabi watches his pupils dilate and shrink before blowing wide again. The flame user smirks at him. What a smart birdie. You've been doing your homework in advance. Oh my god, so sweet. Heat rushes to Keigo's cheeks. He knows Dabi is teasing him. It still feels good though. Warmth blooms in his chest, and the knots in his chest loosens just a little. He likes when Dabi calls him Birdie. He's never had a nickname before. Oh, you're so sweet. Sorry for the little pause. Keigo's so sweet. Oh my god. Okay. Drinking a little coffee. Alright. Let's continue. Anything else I can get ya, boss? Keigo asks, his wings mantling behind him in an impressive display. Keigo tries not to blush at the flirty gesture. Dabi watches Hawk's face carefully. Such a silly little comment turned him pink and made his rings vibrate. It's as if he isn't constantly being praised by civilians and the media alike. That will depend. Dabi steps into Keigo's space, crowding him, forcing him to tilt his chin back to keep eye contact. If this is anything useful, then I can think of a few things you can do for me. Just then the moon comes out from behind the clouds, the light making Dabi glow. Keigo doesn't blink, transfixed by the light gleaming of his staples. Dabi's mouth stretches into a wide smirk. See something you like, Birdie? Keigo nods, pupils blown wide. You're so shiny. Okay. He coos reverently, his fingers itching to touch, but he's never been allowed to touch anyone else. Yeah, you like shiny things, pretty bird? Dabi leers down at him, crowding closer. Pretty bird. Oh, I might like that even more than Birdie. Keigo is suddenly overwhelmed by the scent of campfire and snow. Remembering he was asked the question, Keigo nods, and his reverent smile falls. I'm not allowed to have shinies. Oh my god. Jesus. I'm not allowed to have shiny things. I'm not good enough to earn them. A cloud passes over Keigo's face, breaking the spell of Dabi's shiny staples. The bird finally remembers to blink. Good boys don't stare like that. Good boys get shiny things. His handler's voice echoes in his head. Keigo used to think if he worked hard enough, impressed them enough, maybe they would let him have a nest again, or keep the smooth, shiny stones he occasionally found in the outdoor training grounds. When he was 12, he finally realized he was never going to be good enough to have such things. Cerulean searches gold. That's all, Birdie. Go home and rest. You got more heroing to do after all. Dabi smirks and waves before stepping through a portal back to HQ? Oh my god, headquarters. Jesus. HQ. I'm talking more this chapter, I've realized. I'm going to... Never mind, I read the last part and then I have a question. So, Dabi heads straight for the computer. Bird was prepared. He comments to the lodge. Darby heads straight for the computer. Bert was prepared. He commenced to the room at large, ducking Toga's half-hearted knifing. He had the information ready? Spinner asked suspiciously. If he knows anything about us, he'd know Darby's out for Endeavor. Fuck this. It's all too convenient. Fuck myself, Jesus. Maybe I have to reread that chapter. If he knows anything about us, he'd know Darby's out for Endeavor. Fuck this, it's all too convenient. Tries reasons. Let's see if it's anything useful. Compress leans over Darby's shoulder as he plunges in the red USB. As soon as it opens, file after file appears. The first few Darby opens are basic. Files with medical and family history, scans of all his documentation. They seem to follow a pseudo-chronicle order. Darby selects one at random, farther down the list. Compress turns the computer towards himself as he reads the report on the reckless injury of an intern and the devastating property damage caused by Endeavor's intervention in a bank robbery 2 years ago, and the Commission's cover-up. File after file, each one stamped with an official HPSC seal. Civilian injuries and deaths all covered up by the Commission or blamed on other heroes who happened to be in the area. Darby's blood freezes when he opens a file and sees his own bruised face staring back at him. He scowls, stunned. They knew. The Commission knew what Angst was doing to his family, and they covered it up. All the police reports and complaints logged are here, scanning into the file, but blocked from further processing. Numbly, he opens another file and sees Shoto's face staring back, bandaged after a way disfigured him. Toya's hands are moving from bursting into flame. Toya's hands are moments from bursting into flame. He stalks away from the computer, needing a moment to cool off. This information will be invaluable in destroying Endeavor. I can't think a reason the HPSC would just give Hawks up. I think... Fuck me, I can't read. I can't think... Oh no, it's not even my fault. It's just written poorly. No offense to the author, I love your stories. I can't think of a reason the HPSC would just give Hawks this information for this mission. Kurogiru... Maybe it's both or false. Jesus. Kurogiri intones, reading over their shoulders. Toga is methodically printed each file to go through in greater detail. He tucks the drive out and tucks it away for safekeeping. He's batshit crazy, I knew it, Twice yells excitedly. This information would only hurt both Endeavor and the Commission. Compress agrees. Bring him around when you've decided on him, Shigaraki mutters. He's a valuable game piece with starts too high to pass on. Darby waves a hand, heading to his room. He has a lot to think about, and a lot to read to do. And a lot of reading to do. So this was the second can't even speak. So this was the second chapter, I would have a question. Do you want me to try to edit for the next chapters? Like, cut out the misspeakings or my commentary that was more in the second chapter than the first, because I wasn't sure what I was doing. But yeah, please comment if you want me to cut it out or if it's fine if I leave it in there, because it would take way longer to upload if I have to edit. But if you're fine with the commentary or the mistakes, then I would just let it in and post more regularly. The only other thing would be if you want me to comment on certain things, like what I think or how I feel about comments or phrases in the fic, like I did for the second chapter. Or if you want me to just shut the fuck up and read the fucking chapter. I don't care. Whatever you prefer, if I get any comments at all. Anyway, yes. So, please comment and tell me what you would prefer. So, thanks for listening, and